Yeah. I want to bring up something here because it's a particular thing about friendship that you and I may not see eye to eye on the most. Not we ain't far off, but we talked about something last week that you mentioned. You said there are certain things as a friend that I do. I will go out of my way to do things for somebody, even if I really don't want to do it. And I would do it because I think it's best for them. I don't even put words in their mouth. If you know what I'm talking about, kind of explain it and kind of give a reason behind it.
I was actually thinking about some of the stuff kind of since that conversation that we had initially. Because one of the ones that you kind of asked me before in that previous conversation was also about like introverts and stuff like that, and kind of thinking about like really trying to define in my head like what does that really like what does all that mean, right? And I think that this is kind of the same topic, right? Like as an introvert, it's like you don't necessarily want to go and do these things, and so often introverts don't, right? And I think that a lot of it, what I've kind of come to the conclusion is that I think it is really a discipline in like thankfulness, or like gratitude, which would be kind of the opposite of I don't know, like what's the word I'm looking for?
Selfishness.
Like selfishness, yeah, right, or something like that, right? And I think kind of that's where it comes from, right? Because I think gratitude is something that is really, and thankfulness in general. I think gratitude maybe is a bit better word for it, but that is something that's kind of difficult to be disciplined in. I feel like a lot of people think that gratitude is something that kind of like that kind of comes and goes, right? Oh, I'm thankful for this good thing that happened, right?
Right.
But I think that just like many other things, it can also be a discipline, right? It can be something that you practice, right? There's plenty of situations where we practice gratitude in my house, right? And sometimes I need it for sure, and sometimes my wife needs it, right? But we'll go and do or see something, and we kind of come back to our house, and we're just like, oh, why can't we get this, or why can't we do this, or why aren't we going here, or whatever? Like, how come we don't get to go on vacation right now at this? You know what I mean? That kind of thing, right? And to kind of stop and remind ourselves and practice gratitude in those situations, right? And I think that with friendships, it's kind of a very similar process for me anyways, right? Because I'm talking about like parents and things like that, and thinking about like what that ends up doing to like your kids, because I do have 3 kids, right?
Right.
It's them understanding or seeing me do something that maybe is not necessarily something that I want to do, right? And that I am practicing gratitude. Like I'm thankful that I have this person in my life, right? I am thankful to be a part of this situation, right? And so sometimes I'll do things. Now, I think there is obviously a line, right? So like there's gratitude to show somebody that you're thankful and participate in something that you may not necessarily want to. But I think the line goes where where it becomes a hindrance.
Yeah.
Right? Because there is, I think, courage in both saying yes and saying no at the right times.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's a courage in gratitude of doing something that you feel like you don't want to do, but you think or you assume that it's the right thing, right? An example would be one of the camp that we were at, there was some stuff in there like that would help like kids, right? They wanted me to get involved in a certain activity, right? and it was fine, right?
Right.
And the thing is that I kind of didn't necessarily want to do it, right? But I thought to myself, well, I can help right now, right? And I am thankful to be here, and I'm thankful to do these things. And I think I can show my thankfulness to these people by participating and like kind of helping out, right? And I think that it does more than just like show that I'm good or show that I'm like that's not necessarily why I'm doing it. Part of it is I'm doing it is because I one, it's for my kids, right? 2, I think it also lends itself to my belief system, right? Of not necessarily being my own creature, right? I do believe in God, and
Right.
I'm a man of faith, and I think you are too, right? And I think that faith also is like this idea of courage, but in truth, right? Not necessarily gratitude, right? Faith a lot of times is espoused to be like believing in something that has no evidence.
Yeah.
And I think that that's actually inaccurate. I think that it's actually believing in a truth and its logical like conclusion almost, right? But having courage in that belief to kind of like this is what I think this means, right? And so I think that's really where faith comes into place. Everything else, if it's a fact and you believe that fact, then you're just believing it, right? But faith is when it's like, okay, I take that fact and I bring it out to a conclusion, right? And I think that's really where that is. And that requires courage too, because you could be wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
And so when I think about some of that kind of stuff, like, you know, if people will sometimes ask me to participate in something, I have to find the courage or the strength, you know, to do that, right?
Yeah.
Because when I do that, it does deepen that relationship. It shows that I'm willing to part with myself, right? To give part of myself up, part of my time, part of my money, you know, part of my house, part of whatever, you know what I mean? And it shows them that I'm willing to do that. And I think that's kind of very like essence of like friendship. I think we talked about before it being at a surface level, right?
Yeah.
But then going into a much deeper, much more meaningful, and much more rich friendship. And I think that's really how you do that.
Yeah.
Right? Is through gratitude, right? Understanding that I appreciate this person and I can show them that I appreciate them, not through necessarily even, because words are cheap, right? I can say, I really appreciate you.
Right.
You know what I mean? I can say, I can even like buy you gifts or something, you know what I mean? Which is like kind of I think is kind of a surface level thing, because it really doesn't require, I mean, money, it does require money, which is a little bit deeper. Like, I'm not going to give gifts to just everybody, you know what I mean? And so it is kind of that first step, right? Because it is a sacrifice of money, but sometimes people have extra money, right? But I think that time and like effort is not something that people have extra of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We all get the same amount of it. And a lot of the times whenever you are met with something, it's like, I don't know if I really feel like doing that. It may not even be in my best interest, you know, but I can invest that. I can move things around. I can shift it, and I can invest in that friendship, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And just going back to your example that you just made at the camp, that's why I say that we're just a little bit different on it.
Yeah, sure.
Because I was presented with the same opportunity. You know, I think it was 4 of the 5 days that we were asked, and maybe I did it 4.
Yeah.
I mean, I did it 3, and you did it 4, all 4. And the last day, I said no, and that's because I really didn't want to.
Yeah.
You know, and I think I've gotten to a point in my life that I used to be the guy who did everything for everybody and never chose myself, you know, and never had anyone, you know, replenishing me with what was needed. And I really do believe now I'm deciding or choosing to find moments when I just need to do what's best for me, not from a place of selfishness, but from a place of I have to have something to give, you know, in order to, you know, be my best, or in order to give people what's best. I know if I would have did that day, I would have had an attitude, you know. So I know, you know, it's not going to do anybody any good for a male to have an attitude in front of everybody.
Yeah.
But I think where we are the same, and I think where people really appreciate us is that whichever route we decide, whether it be your route of helping or my route of saying no, I think people know we both are genuine in what we're doing. Like, because just the way you just broke it down, you helping from that genuine place. Like, once you get up there, you're not regretfully doing it. You know, like you're really happy and you see the benefits that it, you know, has and you taking place. For me, people never come back and say, Jamel, you're just such a standoff, solo guy. You never think about nobody else.
Oh,
and
yeah.
people actually, they laugh because, in the church environment, people rarely say no. But they laugh at me because some people probably wish they could say no more often.
Yeah.
But they appreciate my genuineness, So that's how I think we're a little bit different, but I think the same.